And we're back with another tutorial on our cloud system. And I just finished rendering this, and I wanted to explore a little bit the steps I went through to create this. This one is a little bit different from the prior technique. Let's see what the final animation looks like. There it is. Let's play it very slowly. There it is. Right, and so what's different with this one is that I started not by drawing the shapes that I wanted to turn into clouds, but, well, technically by drawing them. But not by drawing them in the particle system, in the cloud system, but by drawing them just in the paint program, so something like this here, right? So this might actually have started with something like a little bit different, maybe something like this. You know, imagine you start with text that you draw. Let's just take the letter 9 right here. Let's take the letter 9, and of course I have the font settings fairly high. You know, here's the maximum size. And that may not be big enough. So instead of stamping it down there and looking at how small it is, I might want to actually catch it into a brush, make it into a brush, enable the preview, PRV, and then store it under the brush menu, store to manage that, a copy of it here. And so this 9, I can make it double the size and store that. Brush, store that, and then perhaps make it even bigger one more time. There you go. So if that's big enough, I'm going to store this brush and stamp it down here. Come on, there you go. Let's work a little bit on the contrast. Let's go image, expand dynamic range. No, we don't want that on the entire animation. Let's disable the preview of the brush. Let's minimize these, we don't need these anymore. What we do want is to perhaps not have it as high contrast here, perhaps a little bit blurriness to that. In fact, let's also get rid of the current animation, and that would be under free, there you go. Alright. So we have this image, and it's not an animation at this point. We can clear that. Let's go to blurring this, blur, bokeh, or Gaussian blur, any of these. Okay, and then let's tighten it a little bit, perhaps with the adjusting the threshold filter, and get it down to about this much. Yeah. Now let's blur it again. Boy, this guy really doesn't know what he wants to do, huh? No, let's not blur. Let's go blur it. Sorry, here. Blur, Gaussian blur, and do a little bit of blurriness to the edges. There. All right. So I'm going to use this image. Let's store that just in case we need to get back to it. And I'm going to create an animation. But I want the frames to be mostly blank. Let's give it 200 frames that will play at 30 frames per second. So right now they're all this, and instead I want to blank it or empty it, clear it, there. Right? And now I go to the first frame and put this image back in place. So we have a first image here, and then the rest is blank. And the reason why we have this image only here and not in the entire sequence is that I want to use this one to create the cloud system, and then I want to animate it over a plain black background, or actually possibly a different color. You know what? Let's do that. Let's open the colors here. Let's select an erase color that's kind of a dark blue, and again go to the animation and clear it, and it will erase to the background color. Now we can restore the first one, and we have a black background with white, or basically a grayscale, you know, think Zbuffer or elevation map, and then we have a number of blue frame. So we'll use this frame here to create a cloud system, and then we'll animate it, and the renderings will go over the entire frame sequence here too. This one we'll probably just ignore at the end, deleting it. Alright, so first thing we'll do is go to animated filters, animated particle modeler. And remember this image we have back here? Well, we'll use this to build a cloud now, right? So rather than us painting it or painstakingly adding a sphere, putting it here, adding another sphere, putting it here, and so on, instead of working it this way, or even instead of using the airbrush and sort of drawing the number 9 here, that would work too, right? We've done this in the prior demos. What I'll do different now is that I'll actually use this image that I have back here as an elevation map. And the way I do this, first I create a new cloud, and I say add height map. So the height map is basically an elevation map or height map of loose particles that will be spread along this entire Zbuffer image. And let's go do that. Add height map. 512 points created. That's not a very dense cloud, but there we go. We have a cloud 9, so to speak. and we can go and get it ready for display. And there it is. Now it's spread through the entire depth of it. We could do that one more time. Add height map, and another 515 points. And every time we do that, it keeps adding points, but they're not all at the same location. They're kind of randomly going across there. So we now get a nice fat number 9. And we could take that into some more. We could go unfreeze it. Now the entire sequence is there, and we could go and deform it a little bit. Let gravity work on itself. Let's randomize it, deform it one more time, and render that. So we have kind of a messy number 9. Alright, so that's just like yet another technique by which you can build some interesting looking clouds that actually start from a shape. Imagine if this looked like a bunny rabbit or a teddy bear or a car, or just about anything. You will be able to turn those into clouds, and there's of course a lot more you can do just on this image alone. Perhaps contain the brightness so it doesn't go all the way, so you don't have that much thickness to it, right? Because this is a rather fat and elevated, thick number 9, and maybe you prefer to have it kind of thin, so you probably would need to reduce the brightness of this image so it doesn't go all the way to white or high elevation. So there's a bit to explore there on that side, but another thing you could do also is unfreeze it one more time and deform it some more, right? A bunch of times, randomize these points, and so soon enough it's kind of fluffy all over, and we might then say, hey, let's do this again, let's add another height map, and that one will be a little bit more contained. Add another one. And so we now have kind of a central thick area of number 9s, and then a little bit of a smoother area, fluffy around it. And so all of these you can combine to create some interesting designs of clouds. You can add a little bit of self-shadowing, change the brightness, the ambient light, the brightness, the position of the lights. You click the light and then the rotation will affect the light position or direction. You could change light 2, same way. The color for light number 2 could be kind of a reddish tint, perhaps. So looks a bit more like I don't know, smoke, dirty smoke. And so here's some exploration to do with these clouds. And now we go to animate this. And again, the first image has that number 9 in the back there, but that's for the first frame. The other frames we made sure are on blue, plain background color. So as we scrub through that, first of all, we still have an animation apparently from a prior sequence, so let's go clear that down here in the lower right corner. So now we don't animate it anymore, but the first frame is again this letter, this number 9 showing against a black background. Now you might want to change the grid orientation here. That's the reference for your ground floor. That's by editing the camera. If you select the camera here, you can see repositioning that framework. You can rotate around it. Actually, that's not what I'm doing right now here. Let's stay on the camera. Come on, select the camera. There you go. So now you have the camera angle changing. And when you do that, when you change the camera, you're not going to have that much secondary motion, like the distortion that you get when turning the object itself really quickly. So that's something you get by turning the image itself, the object. So let's go and spin it around. Here's my number 9. And what I'd like to do is really perhaps move it from afar. Look at that, it spins from a 6 to a 9. Fun stuff we can do with that. Alright, so let's go and keep it a number 9, but move it around over here and bring it far. Now let's bring it close up first initially and keyframe that. So that'll be our first frame. And we will be enabling the just alive option, displacement field, and secondary motion all at the same time. And so at first we don't do anything. Let's keep it for a good amount of frames here, just static. And we'll notice it's not really static, even though we don't do any changes to it, because with the just alive, it will actually keep moving these particles a little bit. So let's keyframe that so we can enjoy that part and see that happen. Then we go forward a little bit in the animation, and let's say we want to move this a little bit towards us. Let's move it up, something like this, and just a little bit, right? And then pause again at this keyframe, still the same. Now we do a very quick spin. So we're going to go about here. We're going to rotate this thing. I'm using the right button now to spin it around like crazy. There, one full turn. And keyframe that. And then I'm going to change the position, having it go all the way to the a little bit forward, perhaps. Right, a little bit forward like this. Keyframe. And then go all the way to the back. Back we go. Off we go. Gingerbread we eat. There you go. And then we just stay there and see what happens towards the end of the animation. Let's keyframe that one too. Alright. So we have a little animation there. Let's make sure we don't forget the secondary motion, the displacement field, and just alive. And rip it. Okay, so that's going to take a little while. I might want to pause the recording and just come back just when it's done. It's actually not too slow here in this case, you know what? Yeah, but anyway, I'll be back as soon as this is done. And we're back, and only a few more frames coming together at the very end here and resting there. Alright. So we've got the animation. Let's kill our particle modeler and check the animation. Remember, the first frame had this black background with the clean letters around it. We still rendered our cloud on top of that, but we might want to delete this. So let's go to that frame. That's this one here, the first one. And click X to delete the current frame. Alright. So now we have one less, but we have, of course, the ones we were really looking for. And let's go play that. So remember, in the first part of the animation, I didn't move any parameters. I did not move the camera, did not move the object, did not rotate anything, did not grab it and move it somewhere else. But nonetheless, the frame is different from one to the other. Everything is animated. That's the just alive part, right? So the clouds, the particles, appear to be alive and animated. See that? All right, so that's that. And then we have it, what did we do? We moved it closer to us. We kind of pulled it to us, and the parts that are inside or closer to the center are moving fastest. Those happen to be dark. So you see them kind of break through the outer shell, and they are then followed by the moving outer shell. And then we did a little spin first to the left and then started a very fast spin to the right. And so you can see here as I'm scrubbing through that it's basically following, the central part is moving first, and then the outer part is kind of like spring-loaded attachments following with a little delay, a little bit of a latency to that. You see the size of the particles here indicating there are still some close by. Finally, they're joining the 9 here at the end. We didn't have enough frames to really come to rest on the final there. You got to be careful, give it enough margin at the end, because just because you end your animation there doesn't mean that all the particles have had time enough to actually get there. So there's a little bit of an art to that. Not surprisingly, this is an art program. So anyway, so here is one funky animation, one more, and we'll be playing with this and creating many more. Thanks for watching.